in London. Hello. December the 14th. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substances or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, could have been any other substance. I just didn't get round to it, or I was fearful of trying it out, probably, that I would lose control over it, or it would get control of me. What an irony that the one thing I thought I was safe with, alcohol, was the one thing that I became addicted to. But when you look at it that way, is it any surprise that if we keep on doing something over and over again, which can be quite insane, and not expecting to have any detrimental effects, it will capture us in some way. So for me, in the end, 24/7 drinker of alcohol. No way of stopping. I would say I'd swear off every morning, yet I still went ahead and did it. Now that is mad. And I guess I was mad as a hatter. So, into recovery. How on earth did I get there? But just roll it back a second. Addicted to substances and behaviour. So what was the other behaviour which went with it? Well, I guess obsessive behaviour around people, places and things. Collecting, trying to be right, trying to be perfect. Just a very trying person. So one day at a time is recovery for me. And what's made it possible? Well, a moment of clarity after all the self-will, self-harm, self-obsession, ego, putting on a brave face and bucketfuls of fear on a daily basis. I found a fellowship which could help me after my moment of clarity. And that moment of clarity was simply this: I cannot do it on my own. Life couldn't get any worse. But it could, and it did, because I still couldn't stop, and it did take a long time to understand that I was powerless over my addiction. Life had become completely unmanageable, and I was stuck, and that help was needed. And that was the very last thing I thought and wanted, because it meant I wasn't as good as I thought I was. In fact, it made me understand eventually, and it was after a long time, that I was simply a human being like anybody else. And if we do something which is bad for us for a long time, it will get us in the end. So alcohol got me, and I needed help. And family, community, professionals all helped me to be alive long enough to get to a place where I could listen again to people who knew how to be sober one day at a time. And that came in the form of fellowship, and that is the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I cannot speak for AA, I don't want to speak for AA, but I can share how it is part of my story of recovery, and how it's helped me on a daily basis ever since day one of continuous sobriety. And it took me over 35 years to get to a place where I was able so far to be sober one day at a time, and it's been going on for a little while now. So how did AA help me? Well, that's the basis of these videos. How does a fellowship keep me in sobriety? I share about it, but I don't represent it, because it is always the many voices of those who are sober that helps us keep sober ourselves. So it's not a one-man show, although it might seem so with these videos. The purpose of the video is to explain it is the many voices of those in recovery, the experience, strength and hope of many people, where we lean on a large number to keep sobriety, and then we are then part of that large number who find our own unique, authentic way to live. So a return to freedom of choice, freedom of activity, without the need to be fixing ourselves on a daily basis. And I'm nearly there, but I've still got coffee and nicotine to worry about. I'm not perfect, never want to be, never can be. I'm just another person seeking the best way forward on a daily basis. So how does fellowship help me? Well, a bunch of unique, authentic people. We all share in meetings of AA, and it's important that I stress it's meetings of AA which gave me the gateway to being sober one day at a time. So meetings where you see what you see is what you get. what you see is what you get. You get people who are 1 day sober, 1 hour sober, not sober, years sober, on a daily basis. And there are many meetings and groups around the world. And the purpose is one. We share the preamble. On this little card here are a few words which explain what Alcoholics Anonymous is. And it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So, whilst it says AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, everybody in AA is in some way affiliated to something else and has their own personal viewpoint on life. So we share about sobriety and experience of life, so you will hear about everything to do with politics, religion and living. At the same time, nobody is suggesting that you follow their particular belief system or opinions on how to live life. What you see is what you get, and you take away what is going to work for you. And the reason why AA has no personal opinions on outside matters is simply this. If it's got one primary purpose, which is about sobriety, then we have half a chance to make it to the next day. We're only there about sobriety, and there are 12 steps to help an individual find their sobriety and keep it 1 day at a time and live life in action rather than watching it or trying to fix it. Live in action. That's the 12 steps of AA for an individual. And then there are the 12 traditions of AA which hold the fellowship together. I'll speak a bit more about those in a moment. And the reason why there's a big difference between steps and traditions, the steps are all about action on a daily basis to improve our outlook and our behaviour and let life work for us and be a part of rather than trying to run it. And the traditions are there to keep the fellowship safe. And that's broken down. The steps are about open, honest, willing to live life. And the traditions are about unity, service and recovery. So we give it away to keep it. And you know, it's free. It's a free enterprise in the sense that people don't have to pay for it if they can't. And when you make contributions to pay for literature and books and rent at meetings and coffee, if we are that luxurious. Some meetings aren't that luxurious. So there you are. It's philanthropic in the truest sense, and there's no government as such. There are no rules in AA. There are merely suggestions. So we work out what works for us, for ourselves in our daily living, and we lean on fellowship to be sustained through experience, strength and hope of others. Sounds a bit weird, isn't it? Well, I don't know any other organisation like it. I never encountered one which didn't have an ulterior motive. But there is only one primary motive in AA, and that's the desire to stop drinking and help share the message of hope that we can be sober. In this book, the Daily Reflections, which is all about the 12 steps and 12 traditions. 12 steps of action, 12 traditions around service, unity and recovery. And each month is covering one step and one tradition. So the 12th month, December, is all about 12th step, the 12th step and the 12th tradition. And I'll just read out what it says here for December the 14th. It says, reaching out. Never talk down to an alcoholic from any moral or spiritual hilltop. Simply lay out the kit of spiritual tools for his inspection. And spiritual tools are the tools necessary maybe to live in reality. Spiritual reality, that is, living in the moment of now. Show him how they worked for you. When I come into contact with a newcomer, do I have a tendency to look at him from my perceived angle of success in AA? In other words, of course, we have our favourite ways of doing things, but if we try and impose them on another person, what do? Or what would I do? I'd reject them. How dare you? Do I compare him with the large number of acquaintances I have made in the fellowship? Do I point out to him in a magisterial way the voice of AA? Well, there is not one single voice of AA. There are the many voices of AA. What is my real attitude toward him? I must examine myself whenever I meet a newcomer to make sure that I am carrying the message with simplicity, humility and generosity. The one who still suffers the terrible disease of alcoholism must find in me a friend who will allow him to get to know the AA way, because I had such a friend when I arrived in AA. Today it is my turn to hold out my hand with love to my sister or brother alcoholic, and to show her or him the way to happiness. And I guess that also fits in with the American philosophy of the pursuit of happiness. And to be able to pursue happiness without a drink inside me is far preferable these days. And I know the Christmas season is upon me and everyone else, but it's not everyone else. Half the world doesn't drink. The other half doesn't know how to stop in safety. But I'm not here to criticise one bit. And when I look at the 12 steps of AA, the 12th step, it was all about that last night at the meeting. I went to what is called a step and tradition meeting, all about the 12th step and the 12th tradition. So the 12th step reads, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, and in my case I get a spiritual awakening every morning. It's called Waking Up and Hello Reality. We try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So in other words, there are 12 steps for me to practice and be utilising, unless they utilise me as well, to live life one day at a time. And the 12th tradition, anonymity, is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Well, part of my 12th step work, if you like, has been doing these videos, and the 12th step, anonymity, is the spiritual foundation. Well, in fellowship, in the meetings and in the fellowship, anonymity affords the sanctuary for us to find the truth of who we are. And it's like going for some confidential discussion, if you like, around experience, strength and hope, where all the voices, each and every person in there, what they have to say is of equal value and in equal weight. Even when we're disturbed and quite out of it in our early days, or even later where we are disturbed, angry and resentful, it's what you see is what you get. And how we listen to that, and the disturbance or the acceptance of life, which is so important. So every voice has equal weight. This is just a personal view. And anonymity affords sanctuary. For me, in my life, spiritual is truth, the truth of now. So my life, if I'm truly trying to get to spiritual, is finding the truth of who I am today, the truth of me and how I behave and what I do. So it's consistent with my values of open, honest and willing to love people, be loved back and be useful, not to try and control other people, nor to try and stamp my identity on another person. So anonymity, spiritual foundation, yes, I'm with it. When it comes to personal anonymity, that's another matter. And I've never been in a place where I'm anonymous when it comes to my living. And I prefer to live the truth of who I am in the moment of now. So I have no problem with people knowing I'm an alcoholic in recovery, one day at a time. That's just me, but it's a personal choice, and anonymity affords personal choice. Again, why do I say I do not speak for AA? I can't. It's full of unique, authentic people of equal status who choose to live their lives as they will. and it's not for me to accept anything in the apple cart to do with another person. It's their life, their outlook, their freedom of choices in sobriety, or not sobriety, as the case may be. So I must end now. These videos are getting a bit long. I think I might have to go back to a shorter version. But in any moment, the steps of AA will work for me on an individual basis, and the traditions will hold the fellowship together, and still be a very argumentative place, always, because that's the nature of human doings. Arguments turn into debates, and if conflicts occur in our fellowship, we resolve them through a group conscience and not one person's conscience. So when life is going well or bad, in the moment, the serenity prayer can be extraordinarily helpful to me, and it's the serenity prayer to God of good conscience, depending on your belief system. And you keep your belief system, it's yours, it's unique and authentic to you, and it may have similarities to many people, and that's just as it may be. But I've learned that this serenity prayer, or daily meditation, or meditation at any time of day, will help me see the truth of now. So to God of good conscience, as you come to understand, or you already understand, God, of good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the things I can change normally are my attitude, behaviour and outlook, and the wisdom to know the difference, and the difference for me is always in the moment and just for today.